Good Gab, sponsored by Skillskin, a nonprofit organization empowering individuals with disabilities through employment. Hello and welcome to Good Gab. I'm Steve McBride, and we're here talking to good people doing good things. Today, we have Chris Patterson, co-chair for Hello for Good. Hey, thanks for being here.
Yeah, you bet. Thank you.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Chris, maybe tell us a little bit about yourself and your journey here in Spokane.
Yeah, for me, I'm born and raised. I was actually born in St. Luke's, so let's go back a ways.
Yeah.
And I think for me, the fact is, which Spokane is, you don't think about it until you grow up, and you start realizing what Spokane does and how much it offers, and when you travel the country or the world and you see different things, So I think after moving around several times, I was adopted. I was actually put in foster care from early on, and then at age 4 I was adopted by the Pattersons. Ended up, learning a lot. My uncle was the sheriff's department, so he did a lot of the hiring for Spokane County Sheriff's Department. My grandfather was the fireman for the Spokane City Fire Department, so his station was the old City Hall.
All right.
With those, the Olive Garden and the big bay windows.
Yes.
I remember as a kid going through there, driving on the back of the fire truck with him, which wasn't supposed to happen, but we did. And he lived over by the old Shriners Hospital, so that was back in the day where I can remember they would take fire trucks to the neighborhoods and the home and do different things, and I could see that. And it's also back in the time when X was 74. I was born in 1969, so I was 4 or 5, and I do remember some of it. For some reason I do. But having been in Spokane, being raised in and around the areas in foster care, went back into foster care at age 12, probably 11 or 12. Aged out at age 19, graduated from Ferguson High School, went straight into the Job Corps. Really, that was the only option. They didn't have extended foster care. They didn't have a lot of the things they have today for the kids who are aging out of the foster care. So it was the Job Corps, the Marine Corps, both were going to be good. And I just took what was available because I needed a place to live. And
Right.
I got lots of trades and went through forestry and welding, construction, brick masonry, culinary.
All here in the Northwest?
Up in Curlew, Washington.
Okay.
Up in Wakanda, Washington. So graduated from there, ended up coming back to Spokane, going to the community colleges. Got a few different degrees there, and I liked going to school. I hated high school.
I'm with you on that.
But I loved Riverside. It was a great school. Had enough of my problems and troubles as a kid, and ended up changing the course of directions and working in the field of health and human services. Actually wanted to go through and become a federal fishing game officer, so I wanted law enforcement. Was always my passion.
Yeah, seeing your family.
And I just didn't, I didn't think anything about it. I mean, I respected my uncle and my grandfather. To me, they were both mentors who I think that were good role models, and they were good for the community, faith-based, family-based. Really, Spokane. It's what's not to like about Spokane. So, fast forward now, and I've got companies that I've created, which is Breakthrough Incorporated, which serves populations of youth from the ages of 6 to 21, both male and female, severe and profound disabled, behavior emotionally disturbed, autistic, schizophrenic, bipolar, dual diagnosed, co-occurring disorders. I've done it for a long, long time. I think it's over 25 years now. And, Spokane is one of those places where it's unique. And I kind of fell into the niche where I had a lot of family members who were asking of the clients we've taken care of before, can you work with our kids? Well, they're not kids, they're adults.
Right.
In the adult world, so we opened up a company called Steadfast Supported Living in Pierce County that specifically works with the populations that are developmentally delayed, come out of the institutions, more severe and profound, high needs, families that need more supports. So we've done that now for a couple of years as well.
So it sounds like you're seeing needs, you just kind of run towards that.
Yeah, and I got to give my props to my wife because she's got a business over in Linwood. It's called Phoenix Salon Suites, so she does that as well over the Elderwood Mall. So we're very, I guess you could say, hungry for knowledge. We're hungry to help people, but we're also philanthropic. Like to do things outside the box. I do skip to the beat of my own drum, or my wife's, depends on when she's
Naturally.
pretty clear. But yeah, it's something that I think that it's good. I mean, I believe in doing what I think is necessary.
Well, so tell us about your journey to this organization, Hello for Good.
Yeah, it's you look back in a playbook, and I think you would you never think about what you're going to do, because you look back after you've had those experiences and say, how did I get here?
Right.
And I do it a lot. Just I seek my own counsel at times, where I have to just figure out, okay, how did I get here? What am I not going to do to screw up the next step? And so to become where I'm at today with Hello for Good, it was the journey of my whole career working in health and human services. I believe in servant leadership and giving back to the community. I believe in getting involved. I believe in going into uncomfortable positions that are going to make you nervous and sweat, irritated, angry, frustrated, challenge yourself, and it makes you grow. So I decided, well, after the last, back was in 2017, 18, I decided, I'm going to jump in. So I went and I did something very unusual. I went around to professionals I know across the country and asked if they would write letters of endorsements for me to work for the administration. And I just believed in getting, whether you serve for any administration, but you serve for the President of the United States, there's no higher calling. And to be chosen, I sent in 67 letters of written recommendation from tribes, professionals, senators, political people, professionals across the country. Went back and did it old school, so I did it on my own. With help, of course, with some people who were really trying to help.
Of course.
And I had a lot of support from people who were unexpected. It was very bipartisan for me, which in today's world people might think that's unusual. It's not. I think it comes down to the content and the character of the person that they're representing, and when they come to you and ask you for something, are you willing to step up? And
you're trying to move the needle for good.
Yeah, and I believed in doing it, so I got chosen, which was a fantastic opportunity to work for Secretary Carson at the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development. Right out of the gate, we started working on the Foster Youth to Independence Initiative, which Dr. Carson made me at that time the national lead for the country on it, so I traveled quite a bit. I got to meet a lot of different foster youth agencies, child welfare agencies, advocates, youth. The youth to me were the reason why. They still are. I'm glad to see the administration has kept it. Oftentimes when there's certain initiatives or programs, each administration might scrap it. But
Sure.
This one is pretty clear. It's not political. Foster care is not blue. It is not red.
Yeah.
And so it was really cool.
Oh, I love that. So being in the heart of DC, in HUD, were you living over there?
My region was Region 9, which is California, Arizona, Hawaii, Guam, and the Pacific Islands. So I had an apartment in Emeryville, California, which is Oakland, and I would just take the BART to and from work every day. So it wasn't just me serving, my entire family. So they stayed here, and we rented an apartment. I went back. I'd fly home on the weekends. It's not for the faint of heart.
I bet.
If you're an honest man in an honest marriage, there's frustrations with your wife. But she understood. My youngest daughter Bailey, she understood. It was something that you all have to choose to do, and they were all behind it. They all wanted me to do it, so I was pretty blessed in the fact that I had that support. There are times it was tough. You're traveling quite a bit, you're going out there, but you're mission orientated. And
Right.
I am mission orientated, and I believe in getting things done. I don't want to waste time. I think taxpayers deserve to know where their monies are going to go, and where's their ROI. And otherwise you're wasting my time. And
Totally.
I think that's where the public has to have that kind of respect. And it's given to them to know that, hey, this is where our dollars are going, and it's pretty transparent. It's clear, it's direct, it's blunt, and I loved it. I mean, I loved working with all of my staff at HUD. Some of the folks that I met, there was over 540 employees for that region, one of the largest regions spread out. I mean, when you go to Guam and Tinian and Saipan and Samoa, there's a lot of things you see. Especially one of the things I brought up the other day is to a group of folks is that HUD is number 2 when it comes to natural disasters.
Really?
So you got FEMA, And then HUD goes out and deploys their folks to make sure the boots on the ground. Okay, where's the funding going to be needed? What needs to be done? Where's the what they have to go to Congress for the funding? They have to make sure everything is approved in their package.
And get everything rebuilt.
Yeah, and then it takes years. I mean, you look at Paradise Fires up in California, which was a horrible loss for the community. Then you look at the hurricanes and different things happen across the country. It's HUD, and each one of my regional administrators, there's 10 of us. So you think 10 people directly respond to the Secretary of HUD, and they are his or her face. So anything that he or she wants done, it was our job to get out and get the message to make sure and hit the boots and the ground running. So it's none of us wasted time.
I can imagine.
Anyway, it was, we had the best team as far as I'm concerned. I stay in touch with a lot of them still today. We're all pretty close.
One thing I didn't realize until I got into the low income housing world is just how integral HUD is to the funding of any low income housing project.
Well, any city structure, any county structure, any state structure, you've got community block development grants, you've got community planning and development, you've got multifamily, FHEO, you've got things that there's more acronyms in HUD than I care to remember, but in federal agencies that's usually the case.
Indeed.
But I think with low income consortiums, there's different kinds of tax credits, there's things that go on far beyond the actual public's knowledge. So to do an apartment complex or do a RAD conversion or things that are necessary to flip a hotel into housing for low income or immigrants such as Ukrainian, there's a lot that goes into it. It takes a unique investor, a developer, banks, the federal government, the state, the county, the city to really think outside the box on how they're going to actually do something. Because it's got to be thoughtful, intentional, and deliberate. And you've got to know what the long-term outcome is going to be, so that way you can get people into more traditional public supported housing or permanent supported housing.
So your region was big. You had a lot of projects going on. What did those relationships look like in like the best communities that you're in between the nonprofits, the developers, the cities, the counties, HUD? Like, how did they do that? Well.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was we had just key people who were responsible for the books of business, whether it's multifamily, FHEO, community planning, developing. Those individuals were the key people that the communities would reach out to. I mean, there's a lot of dollars that come through, and he has a lot of accountability standards. And you have to make sure that everybody's up to speed on what they're supposed to be doing. You do at times, you have bad players, but you take care of that. But
Sure.
The majority of people were fantastic to work with. The nonprofits, the for-profits, the faith-based, the non-faith-based, everybody from my opinion worked well with each other because they knew they were on the same mission. They all wanted to help. The biggest thing I was always impressed with is the team of people that was doing the work, because there's a lot of things happening to make get those loans put forward, put in the package to go through and actually make it approved.
Yeah, all the underwriting.
And the underwriting, the standards, and a lot of the stuff for the validity testing and making sure that everything is all one package. And I would, California was in the news a lot, still is. When you have 60,000+, I say that's low. When you have 60,000+ unsheltered folks, that's a pretty alarming number of people.
Yeah, it's the size of Lewiston, Clarkston.
It's
doubled.
Yeah, so I think you look at what states are doing, what they're trying to do, what's working, what's not working, and you try to avoid what's not working. And if they've done that, go to them and say, what did you do that failed? And if they're honest, they'll tell you. And you just move on and say, look, we'll try not to do that, and we'll go what worked. But every city is different. Every municipality, every political leadership, they all have their own different flares, and the communities have different flares, so not one size fits everybody.
Sure. Well, that kind of brings us to like Hello for Good. Like, we're hearing about this in the community. Our listeners, are talking to us about it. What is this organization? What are we doing? Like, we're really curious.
Yeah, so Washington Trust Bank, which is very unique, as a private entity, hired me as of September 1st of 21. After I did an assessment for the city of Spokane, I looked up where their housing department and what was the issues were, where some of the hurdles were, what they're going to be. And then I said, okay, I'm finishing as of August 31st. I had gotten a phone call, hey, would you be interested? We want to talk about this. And I was kind of shocked. It's like, so you as a private entity want to get into the homeless arena? So you're nuts. I mean, realistically, to be honest, it's a tough area.
Absolutely.
You're either going to make people happy or you're going to make people mad.
And probably both a lot.
And most of the time, you got both, and they're right here, but they don't realize, wow, we just drew everybody to the center. So having that thought, we came up with the idea that we'll work with housing and mental health and co-occurring disorders and addictions and job programs and try to figure out, okay, how do you work, what's working out there, let's not reinvent the wheel, who's doing what. So we had a lot of people who were already doing the work with the Avista Foundation, and they did 2 or 3 years of work on studying homelessness, getting all the content together, and then other organizations to try to bring it together. But you really need people who are forward-thinking. They're not going to be politically explosive. They're not going to be, and sometimes it does help to have that, to challenge the status quo. But it's not what you're looking for. We're looking to bring people together who have common sense ideas on how to help people.
Like a coalition.
And you need a variety of personalities, and we don't want the typical people. We want somebody who's going to challenge us. So we intentionally pick certain people that could be on there as our steering committee. But when Washington Trust and Katie Bruyere, who's the Senior Vice President of Human Resources for Washington Trust Bank, she's my co-chair, so she's a fantastic partner. Huge support, throwing ideas at each other constantly, because it's kind of like that sausage you're making with a perfect recipe. It changes every time you do something. You find the best one, then you find out, okay, this one needs to work, this needs to work, and bringing people to challenge the status quo. So what we did is we started thinking, okay, number one thing, education. Not just for the political leaders, not just for the public, but for the business owners, community at large. Education is key on the types of housing, the types of homelessness, the types of individuals that you're facing. I'll use the term that I'm kind of stealing from Drew Mosier of the Lucky Duck Foundation in San Diego, which I work with a lot. There's the have-nots, the can-nots, and the will-nots. So you think about that. You've got 2/3 of the population that you can definitely help at some point in time, either fast or down the road, which is a fantastic number. So I'll take 2/3 any day. And then you got the other 1/3 of the population who are just shelter resistant. I'm not going there. I'm not going to follow rules. Okay, we'll come back. We'll deal with that later, and we'll figure out, okay, how do we get them to trust? How do you get to build a relationship?
It'll take a lot of time.
And it takes time. So everybody's journey has been harder or shorter than most. It just depends. So we wanted something that was going to be different. So we created Hello for Good, which is help and empower lifelong opportunities. We wanted something that was going to be real, tangible, no BS, and that people can buy into. And whether you're Democrat or Republican or Independent, it makes no difference, because homelessness is that topic where it is not political. It's not, because it could be my son, my daughters, my grandkids. It could be anybody. So I think that you could be touched by it at some point in time. Most people,
most likely.
Yeah, most people have. I would imagine you've got somebody in your family who's got addiction issues or mental health issues, or something where they're on medication for any one of those issues. So we can't turn a blind eye to it. We have to be aware of it. Have to be knowledgeable of it. You don't have to be the expert, but you become the expert when you become the biggest advocate when it hits you personally.
Totally.
But you only do that when you become hit by it personally. Otherwise, I feel sorry for that family, or I feel sorry for this. It's like they're not looking for sympathy or pity. They're looking for understanding and supports, because they're frustrated too, and they want to address it. So it's going to take everybody. Faith-based, non-faith-based. I hear a lot of times housing first. I hear housing, fourth. I've seen some emails back and forth, and I'm like, so it's not. It's like housing first, fantastic. Yeah, I'm all fine. But what are we going to do to make sure that in that housing, once they're there, are they able to be self-sufficient? Can they manage on their own? Are they able to do those things? Is there addiction issues? Is there mental health issues? Is there co-occurring issues? What kind of wraparound services they're going to need? Those are the key principal things that people are going to need to be aware of, because when I write a treatment plan for some of the clients I work with in my other worlds, we have to write a plan for his or her needs.
Right.
Not
individual.
So it's very specific and catered to their needs, which means I have to follow medications. I have to be aware of what their red flags are, what their hindrances are, what their behaviors are. Now that's different when it's in housing, but you should be aware of it. And you become more personalized. So it becomes more of a catered, individualized plan to make sure that that person is going to reach the most possible success. It may not be what I want for success, but it's the best possible way for them to get success.
Yeah, that is the way.
Yeah.
What is the organization going to do to help educate the community then? Like what's happening?
We had our first symposium where we had the former mayor Kevin Faulkner from San Diego, the Lucky Duck Foundation, Drew Mosier, and then Rick Gentry, who is the former president of the San Diego Housing Authority. Rick has been around forever. He's probably one of the most respected professionals in the arena. He's no longer there. He's doing his own thing now, but he's still very involved. So the biggest thing is we started with education. How do we bring people here who are not from Spokane?
Yeah, those different ideas.
So we can see what worked in different cities, counties, states, different jurisdictions. And I understand people will look, that's not going to fit our need. This is Spokane. Well, I understand that mentality. But there might be things that they're using there that we can copy and paste to use here, because why do we want to spend years of studying something and wasting money on something if we can copy something that's already been done successfully?
Yeah, just take the bits and pieces of the best of
Businesses do it every day.
Of course.
And so why not do the same thing? So bringing people here to challenge the status quo. And will we bring people here who might be more controversial? It's not the intent, but it will make you grow your mindset to think, hey, look, here's what they're talking about, and here's what this side's talking about. And if you can figure out where everybody's at in the middle, everybody wins.
Well, how does, like our listener, how would they engage in this conversation? Is these symposiums,
They're free.
Online? They're online, like how?
They're actually in person, so
Okay.
I think we did record the last one. They're not live and online, not yet, but they are in person. And our second one's going to be September 1st at the Davenport Grand from about 8 o'clock until 11:30. Check-ins at 7:30. But
That ballroom, it holds a lot of people, so show up.
It's pretty important. I mean, it's homelessness and safety and security and everything else that we're all seeing that is in the papers, it's in the media. It's not just Spokane, but nationwide.
Absolutely.
But Spokane-centric, yeah, it's here. So why don't we figure out what's the barriers? What are the barriers? Is it lack of political willpower? Is it the public doesn't understand? Is it the businesses are frustrated because there's no safety or security for their employees, and that's part of the issue that's happening right now? Do we need an ordinance that's going to enforce sit in line and help when there are buildings and structures put out there so it does prevent camping? How do we protect the assets? Because without a thriving business corridor that supports a health sciences division, there is no downtown. It's just that simple. And you can see with Expo 74 and in the 80s, and all those individuals like Rick Romero and folks that really, really tried to accentuate Spokane, to put it on the map, to build it, to make it a better city, to help it grow. Because as we get to 600,000 population, and we're not far off.
No, we're not.
To 700,000, 800,000, we're going to be similar to other cities like Colorado Springs or San Diego 20 years ago or whatever it is. So there's places out there you can look at. Here's what we need to be doing now to be prepared for that footprint down the road, because downtown's pretty landlocked.
Absolutely.
And you got 4 bridges connecting the north to the south. You got a north-south freeway, which is going to be opening up things completely. And you've got Airway Heights, the South Hill, the Valley, the north side, which is Deer Park, and you've got that entire stretch of 395 going clear to Deer Park and farther, that it's going to grow. Yes. So how do we be prepared, which brings up the question, how do we also be prepared for the needs of low-income housing? Where do we put it? What communities? And kind of stuff like that.
Well, I'm glad that, as a community, we're thinking, big, thinking long term. I'm a Spokane native, too. We've been around long enough to have seen what Spokane can do.
Yeah.
When enough people get together and that the power of that collective starts to move, we can do huge things here.
Yeah.
And I think we can. It's a cheeky to say solve homelessness. It's like, well, no, this is an issue that will be here forever. It's been here forever, but we can be more effective.
Yeah.
And
Absolutely.
the naysayers out there just, I'm like, no, we don't have to say no. It's unsolvable. It's called put people together.
I look at it when somebody says, "Hey, you can't do it." I say, "Well, okay." It's like, what happens when you tell your kid no? You know they're going to do it.
Right.
So, I mean, especially when you start challenging somebody who's a type A personality who says, "Okay, that's impossible. Chris, why are you doing that? Why are you wasting your time?" Well, because I care. And because I know it can be done with the right people at the table. It's going to take the education system. It's going to take the hospital system. It's going to take the jail system. It's going to take the court system. It's going to take them all to work with each other and to check their politics and egos at the door to get things done. Otherwise, don't come to the party, because you want to be able to make sure people are coming to do what's necessary to solve an issue. We're not going to end homelessness.
Right.
We can, however, improve it for our systems and our city to make it a better place, to reduce it by a large number.
I've been thinking about a lot employers and this particular time of just not being able to hire people. Everyone's getting a little more creative, and we are reaching different communities to employ more diverse people, and that's helping, I think, because
It is.
when you have a job, the dignity comes with that, the way that you participate in your community, the relationships you build. Even just you can go buy a cup of coffee in your neighborhood coffee shop, and you're starting to be in relationship with people. I just don't see how that can hurt anything. And
Well, it's like self-respect. It's when you wake up in the morning, you can go look in the mirror. You take pride in your personal hygiene. You take pride in your clothes. You take pride in and people can see you start to change. You start to glow more. You have more confidence. You get more pep in your step, and you're more thankful and appreciative. I remember as a kid growing up in the system, I can remember vividly my brand new pair of jeans. I started crying, and I think the biggest thing is whether the food stamps, you go to the food lines or different things like that. They're all things I remember. I went through it as a kid. It's stuff that you use as a memory of where you want to hopefully not be again. If you can do it, well, why not? And so if I can go out of a system and come in on the other side and leave out the other side, and you actually start to do things to help people, that's what it takes. So it just takes. It's not a handout. I don't believe people believe in handouts. They do believe in giving somebody a hand up to where they can get them a help. But there is that standard of, okay, look, hopefully you can step up and take care of yourself.
that's always the goal.
And if you can't, there's a specific reason why, and that has to be understood. But what we're seeing in today's society is not. It's just got so far out of hand that we've lost the reality of what dignity means, and respect, and compassion, but also that using that social rule of law. Because we have never, I still teach my kids, respect, don't steal, don't hurt, don't assault people. And kind of go back in the days where there used to be the 10 Commandments. I mean, that was in every household. Not anymore.
The golden rule is the one in mind.
Yeah, so it's, you think about that stuff, and it's like, look, we as a society have never stopped that. So why are we making exceptions now? And we can do things different, or we can still embrace what we did and what we built in the first place. So I would say that the latter is more important, and just continue with that. And there are going to be those people who refuse to absolutely do what's necessary. Fine. But there are those, the majority, want the help, need the help, and will go do something. So employers are desperately seeking staff, whether you're from Ukraine, whether you're from wherever. It's like, look, if these people are able-bodied people and they're willing to work, sign up.
Yep, and be more accepting of a diverse workforce.
Yeah, I mean, it is harder. I mean, you want to be able to, you touch on a different political issues and nightmares, and I'm not going to go down that road, but I think the reality is if they're here to work and they're doing what they can, they're feeding their family, they're paying their taxes, they're doing what they're supposed to do, that is what was considered the American dream.
Totally.
And it still is. So why not support that?
We raise that flag every day in our work at Skillskin.
Yeah.
We exist to empower adults with disabilities, and we do it through employment, and that's we just think that's the magic sauce for us. And so, yeah, you're speaking our language.
No, there's nothing wrong with. I do believe in rules, and I do believe in structure 100%. Every household, most households have it. That's why kids get in trouble. That's why mom and dad come home and they drop the hammer. It's just that's just the way it is. And that's how you support those families or those individuals with the most needs. Especially you protect those who are the most vulnerable who can't protect themselves.
Absolutely. If you had a magic wand and you could change some things in Spokane, anything that comes to mind for you?
I would say the one thing that I would hope people can do is different is work with each other. I don't care whether you're a Democrat, I don't care whether you're Republican or independent. I do believe there's at least 60% of the things, if not more, on the table that you agree with. And to me, a 60-40 win is a 60-40 win. There are going to be philosophical differences on certain aspects. You can check those things out and deal with that later, but when you're not there for that topic, you're here for something different. You focus on the mission at hand, and you only focus on the mission at hand. So I think that's where you have to think outside the box. The short answer is, I would hope that the city council and or the elected folks step, and I know most of them, if not all of them, and they're all good people. But for this particular topic in Spokane, for homelessness and safety and crime, they're failing. And I think that we have to do something where we're working with the people to help them. And I made a statement in the first symposium that I still hold true. I don't work for the electeds. They work for me. We vote. People vote in the public. There's a standard of life. That's how it is. Always has been. So I think as long as we can keep that mentality and not be afraid of it, and that's where I think people's fear is that it's uncomfortable. I don't want to go near it because I might be called out.
Right, but you got to participate, right?
Or there's the cancel culture, which people are deathly afraid of. It's like, look, take a risk. Because maybe your son or daughter needs help. Maybe your nephew, your grandson, your dad, your mother. And maybe there's that thing out there that you need to make sure and advocate for them in the best possible way. The best, safest possible way. And do things that are best for the community.
Well, we really appreciate your time today, Chris. And yeah, I know our listeners are really interested in how Hello for Good, develops and what Spokane can do as a community. Because, when we come together, we do good things. Thank you.
Thank you.